morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't believe we need to make a very long speech to realize that we have a great number of challenges for our future. It's not only the financial and economical crisis that everybody is talking about these days. No, it's also the energy, it's the environment, it's fighting poverty. It is also desperately trying to get a better governance on this planet. And how are we going to solve these challenges? Some people believe that we need new ideas. It's not enough. New ideas, that's extremely easy to have. If we all close our eyes here for 1 minute, we will all come back with a lot of new ideas. This is not the issue. The issue is how to go from the idea to the reality. How to go from the dream and the vision to implementation. And for this, I believe that we really have to understand that what we have to learn is not to get new ideas, but much more to get rid of the common assumptions, to get rid of the certainties, to get rid of the habits that keep us prisoners of old ways to think and old ways to act. This is innovation. This is pioneering spirit. And this is what we need if we want to invent a better future. There has been a lot of these common assumptions that have kept us prisoners of the present instead of pushing us in the future. For hundreds of years, it was proven to be impossible to fly until somebody could fly. The Everest mountain was there for millions of years. Nobody had climbed on top, so everybody thought it was impossible until somebody did it. Walking on the moon, only science fiction until 1969. And I personally remember a very high-level scientist who explained me why it would always be impossible to fly on muscular power. He had calculated that the diameter of the muscles of the arm for a human being is too small in comparison to the muscle of the bird to carry a human body in the air. Well, the problem for him is that the pilot who crossed the British Channel on a muscular-powered airplane used his legs and not his arms. And the legs have a big enough diameter to carry the human body in the air. What does it show? It shows that each time we have convictions, each time we have absolute certainties, we need to change the angle of view in order to find alternative solutions. A nice way to explain about pioneering spirit is the metaphor of ballooning. In a balloon, you are pushed by the wind. You are dependent of the direction and the speed of the wind. And if you want to go in one direction and the wind does not push you there, you will not go either. But what do you learn as a balloonist? You learn that the atmosphere is made out of several different layers of wind, which all have a different direction. So basically, if you want to change your trajectory, you just have to change your altitude in order to get a better wind. And I think it is exactly what we should learn to do in life. In life, we have visions, we have dreams, we have hopes, we have targets. But very often, the winds of life, the situations, the problems, don't allow us to reach that direction. That's why I deeply believe that in life, if we want to innovate, to create, to be pioneers, we have to change our altitude in the winds of life. That means psychologically, philosophically, spiritually, in order to grab other influences, other visions of the world that will necessarily reorient our trajectory. The problem is that just now, that's a nice metaphor, maybe quite poetic, but still useless. How do we change altitude? How do we really manage to become a pioneer? Well, just understand a little bit better how a balloon works. If you want to change altitude in a balloon, you have to drop ballast overboard. And here you will climb to a higher level. The ballast in a balloon, that's water, sand, food reserves, old equipment you don't need anymore. And when you throw this overboard, you climb higher. Now it starts to be more practical. Because in life, and especially in politics, especially in economy and finance, if we want to change altitude, if we want new trajectory, we have to drop ballast. And we have a lot of ballast in our world. It is called certainties, safety, common assumptions, convictions, exclamation marks, habits, paradigms, dogmas. All these things that usually we want to hold in our hands very strongly when something goes bad because we believe it will reinforce us. It's not true. It doesn't reinforce us. It just makes us heavier. So if we want to invent a better future, we need to identify our certainties and our conviction, throw them overboard, and that means try to do the opposite. I don't mean to say that the opposite of what we already believe will always be better. No. What I mean to say is that if we have a conviction, and simultaneously we can envisage exactly the opposite, we don't have anymore just one way to think or to react. We have thousands of ways to think and react in between. This is possible in politics. We can very well take ideas from the left and ideas from the right in order to make our own political program. It's the same for religion, although it's these days a little bit more dangerous maybe. We can belong to a religion, but at the same time understand the faith and the belief of others, integrate it in our own belief in order to have more tolerance and also, of course, to open and broaden our spiritual understanding of life. We can do it for economy, for education of children, for finance, of course, for technology. Why should we believe that we have to continue what the past has brought to us instead of making some paradigm shifts in innovation? If we manage to think like this, if we manage to be a little bit more a balloonist in our pioneering spirit, what will be the result? The future will not be anymore one straight line going in one dimension in one single direction. No. The future in front of us will be made of all the possible lines, going in all the possible directions, at all the possible altitudes in 3 dimensions. And what will be pioneering spirit and innovation? It will just be when we allow ourselves to move up and down along this vertical axis, explore all the different altitudes, which means all the different ways to think, all the different ways to behave, all the different ways to react, until we find the altitude, that means the way of thinking, that pushes us in the direction we wish to reach. It's not easy. We need advisors, but mainly advisors who have different ideas than us, otherwise it's useless. We need sometimes friends, family members, psychiatrists, psychotherapy. We need, for balloons, to have weathermen. The weathermen are the ones who calculate the direction of the wind in 3 dimensions and help the pilot to move up and down to follow this 3-dimensional grid, each altitude having another direction. But I have to say that sometimes it's very paradoxal. When I was with Brian Jones, flying around the world non-stop in 1999, there was a moment after 4 days of flight where the weatherman told us, you have to keep an altitude of 8,000 meters and a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. Well, 60 kilometers per hour, if you want to fly 45,000 kilometers, you don't need a computer to see it doesn't work. So we disobeyed. We moved up and down to find better speed. And at 9,000 meters altitude, we found a little jet stream blowing 120 kilometers per hour. And we were so proud that I took the sat phone, I called the weatherman in the mission control room, and I say, hey guys, don't you think we're good pilots up there? We fly twice the speed you predicted. And the answer was brutal. They told me, we never asked you to fly so fast. And before I could say anything, they told me, open your gas valve, move down by 1,000 meters to slow down. And I started to argue. I said, I'm not going to do that. We are in a hurry. We don't have enough gas in the balloon to make holidays over every country we overfly. Let us fly fast. And they told me, you understood nothing up there or what? I said, what do you mean? And they say, well, you have a low-pressure system on your left side. So if you move too fast, for 12 hours it will be brilliant. High speed, good direction. In 12 hours you will have reached the front of the low-pressure system and you won't go east around the world anymore. You will move counterclockwise around that low-pressure system and you will end up in the North Pole. And then they asked me a question that changed my life. They asked me, hey, you, the good pilot up there, what do you really want? You want to go very fast in the wrong direction or slowly in the good direction? And here you understand how important it is to have good weathermen, not just for ballooning, but everywhere in life, especially for governance of this planet. Because what do we see now in our world? We see our world that burns 1 million tons of oil every hour without counting gas and coal. A world that is changing the climate, destroying biodiversity, leaving incredibly high public deficit for the next generation who is never going to be able to pay it back. And what's the result for us today on the short term? It's brilliant. We have mobility. We have money. We have energy. We have safety. We have comfort. But for how long? It is obvious that such an unsustainable way of living is pushing us very, very fast into a wrong direction.